the world stopped when Luka got traded for Anthony Davis,
Mhm.
and Nico took a lot of shit. We've all known Nico for a long time. I always thought it was above Nico.
Yeah, of
Thought
course.
obviously that was an owner's decision, but you know what? 2 months later, they're rewarded with Cooper Flagg sweepstakes. When you first saw that, what were your thoughts?
What's funny is when the trade happened, and I'm a Laker fan, so I know we're the godfather of the NBA. We're the damn logo, right?
Mm-hmm.
we're the logo of the NBA. Magic was when the NBA merged. Magic Johnson was the baby,
Mm-hmm.
right? So I followed Magic to the Lakers on a championship,
Mm-hmm.
contending team. And then they get James Worthy, the number one pick, while they're champions,
Mm-hmm.
right? So I've followed the dynasty.
This goes way back.
It goes way back, right? I think only Elgin Baylor is the only we can consider superstar that didn't win a ring in a Laker uniform. So the legacy is the legacy. So when this trade happened, I'm sitting here like, okay, that makes sense. And the rumors I'm hearing from Dallas is like, yeah, that don't make sense, right? You're a new owner, so you got to pay the tithes, right? And the tithes is you give this up for the betterment of this league, and we'll reward you later, right? If you look at history, just every new owner, somehow they get the number one pick within the first couple of years. I think the only one that hasn't is the Brooklyn Nets owner, but they then got the big three. They got Kevin.
They got something.
Like when they came in, they got what? Kevin Garnett, Joe Johnson, and Pierce, right? It just didn't work out for them, but they've gotten their fair share of talent, being a new franchise. So, it's like welcome to the boys club.
So are we to say this is just the business of basketball? Is it safe to say that's the business of basketball?
Yes. Everything is a business. When you're talking about running empire, and the NBA is an empire, you want to make sure the right pieces are in the right places, right? You really think, Michael Jordan would have pushed the NBA forward if he was in, was it
A nasty market.
Portland somewhere? No, he went to a big market. You want your big stars in the big markets. When you look at before the top 75, when you look at the top 50, was it 40 of the 50 were in big
Bigger
markets,
markets.
right? They were in the four pinnacle markets. So, this is a business. Dallas is a big market. You got somebody like Cooper Flagg. You don't want him sitting in Charlotte. That doesn't help the NBA brand.
Absolutely not.
So, when the trade happened, and I'm like, they will be rewarded, right? I figured that, their record, everything that happened, they were gonna get a top 3 pick. So I was, when I came out, I said, why is Anthony Davis coming back? That is pointless. Why are you trying to make the playoffs and jump out of the lottery? Right? That makes no sense. This is no different than, Lakers getting Magic, Spurs getting Tim Duncan. If you look at their record 2 years before, 50-something games, then they had a bad year. People got hurt. They just set everybody, end up getting Tim Duncan, then they win the ring, right? So that's the same thing that I was thinking for Dallas, that, if Anthony Davis doesn't help them get to the playoffs, you get a top 3 pick, you get Ace Bailey, you get Harper, one of them.
Talented draft.
Yeah, that actually helps you with the roster. You're,
Mm-hmm.
and boom, there you go.
So number one pick, I mean, I always respect kind of your mind of basketball. There's talks on ESPN about potentially packaging that up. I don't see that happening. How do you think Cooper Flagg fits in with a healthy? Because after that trade happened, I felt like this Dallas team was more fit for the playoffs and to make a run in the championship, obviously, than the Lakers were. And then the injury bug hit them. How does Cooper Flagg fit in the mix? And do you see him playing the 3?
Yeah, I mean, was he 6'7"
9?
and a half,
Oh,
6'9"
where's
with
that?
his shoes
Yeah.
on? So he's a 3. Today's 3, right? You have, if everybody else out there, Kai at the 1, you have
Washington or Clay at the 2.
probably put Clay at the 2. You're going to start Washington at first, but then obviously that goes to Coop, then Anthony Davis and Gafford or Lively. I mean, you have a big ass team.
Long.
You really have a dominant team, and it doesn't put any pressure on Coop Flagg. He
No.
gets to actually just be
Develop.
a system player, feel himself around, no pressure really, because they're going to be winning. So,
Mhm.
you know, his legacy, you know, from the jump gets pushed in front of everybody because he's going to have the winning record. Now, if he wins a ring within the next 2 years, he got his ring. And then for the rest of his career, he just can collect stats versus the other way around. We
Mhm.
get all the stats and then we're not called a
Right,
winner.
and you
Then
get
we
the
got to try
ring,
to find
yeah.
a way to win. He would get that winning stamp early in his career.
Shout out Dallas overall for the fan base. You get Paige Beckers with the
Yeah.
number 1 pick in the WNBA draft, and then you rewarded with Cooper Flagg. And I'm happy for the fan base. That's a great fan base out there. Obviously, what Mark
Mhm.
Cuban was able to do with that organization was second to none. And you know, obviously they hit a little rough patch with the new ownership, but again, the business of basketball has allowed them to rebound and get everyone healthy and make a move. Other notable, questionable, I think that's a better word, questionable lotteries. Anthony Davis in 2012, Pelicans, right after the team was sold to Benson.
Yeah.
Random.
Right.
Kyrie Irving, 2011, right after LeBron goes to Miami.
Yeah, because that's right after when Cuban bought his team, but you had LeBron, and then, you know, he leaves.
Patrick Ewing with the frozen envelope in 85. Interesting. Zion after the Pelicans trade AD to Lakers. One thing about the Pelicans have been rewarded because I want to say the AD shit happened when Chris Paul got traded, right? When Chris
Yeah.
Paul left,
Mhm.
That was
they
right
got
around the same timeline that
yeah.
the denied Lakers trade.
The
That was
NBA,
crazy,
yeah, the
'cause I
NBA
was-
owned the
NBA
team.
owned the team at
The
that
NBA
point,
owned
and
the
then
team,
the
right.
Bensons
Well,
owned
remember
it.
Jeannie was telling us how that shit happened, right? Like it was a big meeting somewhere and somehow, some way. Anyway, long story.
It was because, you know, I was in Orlando
Okay.
at the time. So because they wanted Dwight, right? So, you know, Lakers wanted Dwight. So there was a bunch of moving parts. And the first moving part was Chris Paul getting to LA. Now, the reason the deal got messed up because Lakers had too much money left over, right? So what happened was you have Chris Paul going to LA. Then you have for
Powell, Lamar,
Powell and Lamar.
because I was on that
Now,
team when
so
they
now
had
you
to
got
come
Powell
back.
and Lamar.
Yeah.
Now think about, you probably got $8 or $9 million left over. Then what happens is you amnesty Ron Artest for his 8-9 million, which gives you 18 million. And then on the back burner, you had Dwight Howard getting traded for Bynum, right? So now you
Ooh,
have
CP
Dwight, CP,
and Kobe.
and Kobe, but you got about $18 million free, and then the cap went up, so they had about $24 million. And then at that moment in time, 24 million,
Get the
you
best
got your
player in
two
the
max
league.
players because you
Mhm.
start them off at 12, right? So
Mhm.
Kobe had 20, so Kobe was on 24 million. But think about what LeBron James and Chris Bosh signed for in Miami. They starting base was about $12 million, 109 how you started off. So you backload it, right? So you start them both off at
Mhm.
12. You had damn near the USA team on one team, and then Kobe would have been up. You got $24 million free. You didn't even have to sign Kobe back. You can go back and sign Kevin Durant and somebody else. So you would have had the USA team on the
In
Lakers.
LA.
And when Mark Cuban found that out, he called foul play, and then they
He
had
blew the
to
whi-
they
he
had to
blew the
move Chris
whistle
Paul. They had to push Chris Paul to
to
the Clippers
down the
instead.
hallway.
Question for Gil for speaking in New Orleans, all this talk about expansion. Do you see there being two pure expansion teams, or do you think one team get relocated?
Listen, there's some shit markets, and when you're talking about business, you know, it's really all about business, and you got to put teams in big market. There has to be a team in Vegas, obviously. Charlotte, I don't know why Charlotte still has a team at this
That's
point.
interesting. Would you call Seattle a big market or just a great sports town?
Great sports town.
Okay.
Right. If I was the commissioner, bro,
Mhm.
there'd be 3 teams in LA. There'd be 3 teams in New York, right? There'd be another team in Miami, right? There'd be another fucking team in Dallas or somewhere around in the
Mhm.
Texas area, right? I'm gonna milk the market.
Mhm.
Like when you think about shoe companies, there's 4 teams that are called tier ones: Lakers, Clippers, New York Knicks, and Brooklyn Nets.
Oh, bro, not Boston.
They're tier 2 with
Okay.
Miami and Chicago. So basically, LA and New York are tier 1s for shoe companies. So, you know, if you're thinking about that, you might as well put another team, put one in Manhattan, and then, you know, put one, you know, somewhere else in LA,
Mhm.
you know, for
San
the
Diego.
market. Yeah. Put one back in San Diego. Yeah.
Mhm.